Now, to kick off our event, we have an exceptional speaker who will share insights on the Mindful Employer Certification Program. Annie Richardson is a senior HR professional with over 20 years of progressive experience leading human resource strategy and operations. She is currently the head of HR at Archery Worldwide. She has joined the Bermuda Mental Health Foundation as a director in 2017, and he has spearheaded the development, implementation, and administration of the Bermuda Mental Health Foundation's Mindful Employer Certification Program. Through this work, we aim to promote mentally healthy environments, one workplace at a time. Please join me in welcoming Annie Richardson, who will guide us through this topic. Over to you, Annie.
Morning. Thank you so much, Jody. Thank you for your time. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Nothing better than to be the first speaker at a conference. I've had my coffee, so I think I'm good to go. Um, Thank you for the introduction. Wanted to just kind of remind you of what we do at the foundation. At the Bermuda Mental Health Foundation, we have kind of two work streams. We manage residential care facilities. And we also have a mandate to support mental health advocacy and education within the community. So what I'm here to talk to you about today is on the advocacy and education side of the house, and we're here to talk to you about the Mindful Employer Certification Program. So I'm the head of HR, as Jody said, head of HR for a large insurance company. Over my career, I've worked in international business. I've worked in insurance, in reinsurance. I also have been an HR professional consultant within some of the local businesses here in Bermuda. So before I begin, I wanted to tell you a little bit about why I do this. So I have a little story for you. So as a consultant, number of years ago, I worked for a company, local company. And in that company, we hired an employee. Let's name her Jane. So Jane was amazing. Self-starter, dedicated, hard worker, great personality, got the job done, like really, really hit the ground running day one. Everything was great. We even promoted her within a couple of months of her having started. And she started in her promotion, she began managing employees as well. So very happy with Jane. One Monday morning, Jane's husband calls me and says she's in a hospital. She's not in a good way. I don't know how long she's going to be there. I'm not sure she wants you to know this, but she's actually at Maui. So as an HR professional, I extended the regular stuff, right? Like, okay, please tell her not to worry about work, concentrate on her health, all the best, please keep me posted, like all of the good stuff, right? So case closed. A couple of hours later, the manager comes to me and says, I heard that Jane is at Maui, and I heard that she's going to be there for a while. Like, this is stressing me out, Annie, because we've got a really big project going on at the moment, and now I'm worried that she's going to be like having difficulties dealing with the fast-paced environment. She won't cope. Like, I'm worried about loss of productivity. Like, what do I do? How do I start thinking about managing her out of the company? Okay. Second person, um, colleague, employee, a direct report, walks into my office, hand on hip, and just says, I knew it. I knew it. All this time. I knew it. I never really, really liked working with her. I hear that she's at Maui. She got off her head. And I've actually just looked on online, and I found all of this information. I hear she's bipolar, and bipolar people should not be managing direct reports. And here's the reason why. Okay. In a second, I'm going to tell you how I handle that. But first, I want to tell you what went through my mind. Apart from going home that night and literally crying and feeling really, really sad about what was going on. What went through my mind at the time is how much power I had, how much power I had to act differently, to change the narrative, to foster empathy, to educate people, educate the manager, educate the director. I had so much in my hand. My response and how the next steps were going to be was dependent on how I responded to this. So here's what I did. So spoke with the manager and said, okay, we don't know what she has. We don't know why she's in the hospital. And even if I did, I wouldn't tell you what the reason. But let's assume, let's take this back a second. What if Jane told you that she has diabetes, that if she doesn't take her medication, she can go into a coma. As a matter of fact, what if her husband had called me and said she's in a coma at the moment? How would you have dealt with that? I'll tell you how we would have dealt with that. We would have, sent her flowers. We would have said, you know what, we'll reorganize your work. Don't worry about it. Like just focus on your, on your health. We would probably hired a consultant to come and help us cover for her while she's gone. We would have probably, rearranged her schedule when she came back. We would have probably left the position open for a couple of months while, she sorts herself out. So what changed? Why are we responding differently? Why would we be responding differently to a mental health issue as opposed to a physical health issue? Up until today, you had no issues with her, no issues with her performance. So what changed, right? So that's how I handled the manager. Now, how did I handle the employee? I wrote her up, actually. Basically told her, look, you're an analyst. You're not qualified to diagnose your colleagues. You need to cease and desist from making derogatory comments, from making defamatory comments, and you will face the consequences if you continue doing so of being disciplined up to and including termination. And then what I also did a couple of weeks later is I partnered with the EAP program, our EAP program, and we developed a lunch and learn on diversity and inclusion and how, and I made sure that that we had a slide that spent some time on mental health, because that's another way of looking at diversity. This could be neurodiversity as we would describe it. So this is kind of like how I chose to handle it. And actually, I'm not sharing. Hang on a second. Let me just. Can you see? All right. So this is how I chose to handle it. And I think that this is also what led me to joining the Bermuda Mental Health Foundation, because I wanted to have the opportunity to normalize the conversation around mental health. And so basically, let me just, hang on a second, move this slide. So I had the why. So sorry, I wasn't sharing. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the Mindful Employer Program. But before we do that, just want to talk to you a little bit about, like what are some of the stats? So if we're looking at statistics, 1 in 4 people, 1 in 5, 1 in 4 people will experience a mental health issue of some kind this year. Keeping in mind that, especially during the pandemic, 50% of work-related illnesses were due to stress, depression, and anxiety. Now, one staggering number here is 84% of employees do not feel that they have the ability to discuss any sort of mental issue with their manager. And as a matter of fact, they believe that 92% believe that admitting to having a mental health condition will damage their career. The other thing here that is pretty staggering is that depression and anxiety disorder worldwide account for a loss of $1 trillion in productivity each year, and that there are 12 billion working days that are lost each year to depression, anxiety, and stress-related work conditions. So needless to say that a good workplace mental health practices, they can help raise morale, retention, innovation, profits, and also attracting employees, right? Like a lot of particularly our millennials or our young people like to kind of like know that an employer is doing the right thing. So with that in mind, we developed the Mindful Employer Program. So the Mindful Employer Program is a 12 is a program that we've tried to make it as simple as possible. It has 12 standards, and basically each standard builds upon itself. And that is because it's meant to appeal to any size organization. It doesn't matter if you're a mom and pop shop, small company, or a large exempt company with 300 employees. There's something for everybody. And basically, the standards allow you to attain, as an employer, attain either the bronze, the silver, or the gold level. And so basically, what we've thought is these levels, these standards allow you to set up a framework around which an employer could kind of build on supporting mental health in the workplace. So hang on. So like I said, these requirements are incremental. So like if we're looking, for instance, at bronze level, like so everybody, no matter what level you're at, you need to have, if not a human resources department, you need to at least have perhaps a consultant or someone who's handling your human resources, right? You need to ensure that you've got confidentiality processes in place and policies in place to ensure that information, particularly as it relates to mental health, don't leak out of within the organization. So if we're just kind of like building on that, you can go all the way to gold level. Gold level, for instance, you will have to put in place someone who's a mental health champion. We can talk about that going forward, but basically those standards build on each other. But the overarching requirement is that no matter what, irrespective of whether you're looking as an employer to achieve the bronze, the silver, or the gold standard, you have to have training. And the training is your managers must go through, at least 80% of your managers must go through a course called Mental Health in the Workplace. It's a lunch and learn that has been developed by the Bermuda Mental Health Foundation. Your employees have the ability to access a lunch and learn for stigma-free workplace, basically educating employees on, like creating a stigma-free environment. And then across the entire organization, at least 5% of your managers, or sorry, 5% of your employees must complete the mental health first aid course, which is a 2-day course that is offered by Maui, so in partnership with Maui. So basically, on the basis of all of that, once you've done all of these standards, once you've completed all of these standards, you have the ability to reach the bronze, the silver, or the gold level. We'll talk a little bit more about how that works. So next slide here. So I just said about 12. Well, actually, it's actually 13. We have just, a couple of months ago, actually, just launched the platinum level. So that's the 13th standard. We've partnered with CG. Thank you, CG. We've partnered with CG and with the Mindful Society Global Institute. And in collaboration with the two, we've implemented the 13th standard. The 13th standard is that 10% of managers must complete the Mindful Leader Program. And the Mindful Leader Program is a 6-week leadership program that's offered for CG CG group of the employers that they support. So it's a 6-week leadership program that covers topics like mindfulness, stress management, focus at work, communication, optimal work-life habits, and is hosted by a gentleman by the name of Michael Apollo, who is a leader in workplace mindfulness and executive development. He's also the founder and CEO of the Mindful Society Global Institute. So the premise of the platinum level is that an organization culture shift starts at the top. So when top management makes mental health a priority, everyone benefits. So if we're looking at this Mindful Leader Program, employees, managers, leaders get to follow this program for 6 weeks. They pass the test. They end up being able to qualify for the 13th standard, and the employer can achieve the platinum level of the Mindful Employer Certificate Program. So let's go back very quickly on how all of this works. So if, as an employer, you're interested in joining in participating, we a few of us within the Bermuda Mental Health Foundation have an opportunity to go and meet with you, with the employer, the HR department, with the group, the leaders who are interested in taking on this challenge. We'll take stock of your organization. We'll have a look at your policies, your processes. We'll ask a number of questions. We'll survey your employees. We'll have a few targeted interviews with some of your employees to understand exactly what is currently done as an employer. We will then spend time educating the employees. Like I said, we've got the stigma in the workplace training, so the manager training, the all staff lesson learned, where obviously we'll require you to do the first aid training. So it's 5% of your organization that have to do that. And depending on whether you want to go ahead with the platinum certification, there's the Mindful Leader program. And then the goal is over time is to help you embed actions that will help minimize stress, support employees' wellness, and to also ensure that there is a zero tolerance approach. Like, we don't want employees with hand on hip that say, I don't want to work with this person, right? We don't want that. And then the other thing is the mental health champion. We have a job, like, I guess, a task description that kind of describes what this mental health champion would do. But when you're looking to achieve gold or platinum level, you must elect at least one mental health champion. One of our participating companies, their mental health champion is actually the CEO. And what that means is that it starts from the top. Could be anybody within the organization, but what the mental health champion will do is, it's their job to keep an eye on what's going on from a mental health perspective. Have a think about, bringing in some lunch and learns on a regular basis. Perhaps it's introducing a yoga class, or maybe encouraging employees to go for walks after work. Whatever that is, this person, it's their job, it's their task to ensure that we're always thinking about mental health. We're putting mental health first within the organization. And then over time, the certification is, the recertification is every 2 years. So the idea is that the Bermuda Mental Health Foundation will stay in touch with the employer to ensure that all of these things are kind of like developed upon. But certainly the idea is that every 2 years we come back and we do it all over again to ensure that we're constantly keeping mental health as a priority within an organization. So at the end of the day, we think that, why not? Why not? I guess it's because basically the way we see it is, you spend the most time at work. And so as an employer, we have an ability, or the ability, to normalize the conversation within the workplace, support our employees with their mental health, reframe and reshape the way they think and view mental health. And in turn, they get to take that with them. They take that within their communities, their families, their neighborhoods. And therefore, we have an ability to not only impact our workplace, but also the community in general, and change the stigma around mental health as it relates to, how we look at mental health in Bermuda. So why not, right? And one thing that's very important, and I think it's put mental health at the forefront of everybody's mind, is during the pandemic, right? During the pandemic, 25% increase in anxiety and depression at work. That's a lot. That's a lot. So for us, from our perspective, the view of the program is to build a culture of prevention. It's to build a supportive culture that encourage knowledge, skills development for open conversations around mental health. It's to reshape the work environment to stop the stigma. And it's also about social inclusion, right? Like, we want to ensure that, people are not treated differently just because they have a different way of being, right? And it's also about mitigating the impact that poor workplace mental health can have on the business and on the culture. And again, like I said earlier, it attracts good people who are motivated to join an organization that supports mental health. So at the end of the day, it's about normalizing the conversation around mental health, one employer at a time. And that's it for me. And if you have any questions, you can be free to ask them now. My email address is arichardson@archgroup.com. So if you have any questions that you don't want to share today, you can always email me. But very interested in hearing, particularly if you're an employer, if you're in a position of decision-making position, by all means, I'd love to come and present to your organization to talk about the program. And just want to ensure that, at the end of the day, this is something that's needed, and it's something that can impact our entire community. So I'd like to make my why be your why. And that's it. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time.